Bev Mindel-Atherstone, thank you so much for letting me be here. Thank you so much to the Owl Acoustic Lounge that we can continue on. Okay, this poem was just published November 4th in Visible Magazine, and this was a response to the tent city, the unhoused, the homeless camp being demolished without any warning. It's called A City Irony. The cold sun rises on the empty square. No occupants now, where the ground is bare. Around it all, a hasty chain link fence keeps out unwanted squatters' tents. Just yesterday, to patches green and blue, police came. Move or we'll move you. Hastily, tarps and poles, blankets folded, and clothing, precious items bundled. It's bitter cold. Where shall we go? The quick response, just get out now. You can't stay here. Just take your stuff. If not, we'll throw it in the dump. At noon, beside that spot, great ironies, as bureaucrats spoke of homelessness, while those on the move again were witness to City Council's empty shelter promises. All around sit vacant, heated buildings, winter warmed to keep pipes from bursting, but unable to house the freezing horde, unavailable due to NIMBY's bitter word. Thank you. Thank you very much. I haven't had time to write one about the recent announcements, but I did write one about inflation. It's called Deflated Solution. Unlike bubbles and balloons, inflation has a flair for wreaking havoc like typhoons, filled mostly with hot air. That's a little epigraph for my poem. Despite escalating prices at the pumps, long haulers still must fill their trucks, while OPEC profits, drivers feel like chumps. These rising prices leave consumers stuck. Wise pundits try to curb the growing beast. Stop buying, the Bank of Canada dictates. To cool the economy where it hurts them least. They'll curtail our spending by raising interest rates. But their mantra needs close investigation. Raising lending rates is usury, quite brazen. When borrowers with increased debt are laden, and rents rise, and jobs are lost, poverty will hasten. So let's support an energy solution with sun and wind instead of OPEC's fuel. Let's create an economic revolution, protecting planet Earth, our precious jewel. Thank you.
Thank you, Teri, and once again, thank you to the Owl for this beautiful platform. Hi, everyone. I'm Amrit, and I'm very thankful for your presence here today. I wrote this poem about the winter on November 2nd. I was sitting at my table having breakfast, and the window beside me, the snow was falling. It looked very beautiful, and I knew I just had to write something in that moment. It captivates me as it falls slowly to the ground, fluttering down from the heavens above. blanketing the earth with its ice-cold warmth, painting the sky with the shade of new beginnings, so soft, so delicate, yet so dangerous. What will this winter bring? Do you see a wonderland, perhaps? Or a glimpse into the unknown? Embrace the cold, darling, and maybe you'll find out. Thank you.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Medina, and this is actually probably going to be my last poetry night for a while because I graduate in a couple weeks. So thank you. So I decided, I've got 4 poems. I'm kind of just reading my favorites from over the years. So this is actually the very first poem I ever read here. It's called Overreaction. You weren't the flame. You were merely the spark that ignited it. You weren't even the fuel. The oxygen was the injustice and the hardship. Your ignorance and closed-mindedness was the not yet put out cigarette butt dropped in a forest of wrong. She was the fire that burned it down, and she was the surviving seeds from which the world was reborn. Her overreaction became the change that conquered the new world. Thank you. Okay, and then this one is called Gardening. If I could touch even one soul with my message, then I know my purpose has been served. Let there be celebrations, lights and colors in my streets, and the most beautiful music coming from all directions. Tulips and peonies lining my garden forever in bloom. For I know that if my message has reached even one person, then the seeds have been planted. The roots of my revolution of love and change and acceptance have begun to grow. So I would celebrate, for I have faith that even one person, one seed, one tree can change the course of our very existence. Isn't that an encouraging thought? Thank you. All right, I've got 2 more. This one doesn't have a name. I was told of a garden that could be reached only by the greatest. In order to see the garden, they told me I had to be something. And so I searched the world for something to become, something to make me worthy. I claimed adjectives to recite when asked who I was, to prove my worth. They told me it would make me complete, but I was still left empty. So I searched for more, stretched myself thin, felt the crushing weight, the pressure building. Do everything, be everything, and I did. I came back and told them everything I had become, and they said it was not enough. I had given myself up, and it still was not enough. And so I fell to my knees, raised my hands to the sky, and professed, I am nothing. I shed the skin of everything I had tried to be, felt hot tears slide down my cheeks, heard them land on the grass below. I felt a warmth embrace me. Where my tears had landed, sprouts begun to grow, bloomed into beautiful flowers. I was in the garden, heard, understood, and loved, united with the everlasting. Thank you. All right, and then this last one is called As I Go. As I fade away, I think, as the wind carries me away, what else will go? I close my eyes and breathe, one last breath, taking in the life around me, bringing with me what I can. Do I leave anything behind? Will I leave behind a legacy of flames, or will they be extinguished as my light goes out? Will the seeds of revolution I planted develop and grow until there is a labyrinth of roots beneath the earth, or will they freeze in the first winter without me? Will the new world stand strong, or will it crumble to the ground alongside my castle? How many hearts were warmed by the flame, and will they burn strong, or will the adversity that caged me get to them as well? Will I be remembered fondly as a changemaker, or with disgust as a delusional idealist? My muscles slowly relax, and my body goes still. 1, 2, 3, 4. My heart beats its last few beats. I remember it all. The memories of smiles and tears, the good and the bad. Whether my impact was a footprint or a crater does not matter. I regret nothing. Thank you.
Well, Maddie, I have mixed tears. Tears of happiness for you to graduating. Tears of sadness because you're probably moving back to BC, are you? Oh, to Calgary. Well, that's not too far from us. And I will miss you, and I know a lot of us will. And it's been a pleasure to see you and hear your beautiful poems. Thank you for sharing them with us. On a happier note, I would like to welcome Jordy back, who we haven't seen for ages. I didn't even recognize him when he came to see me. He hasn't been with us for about 2 years now, I believe. And he has a beautiful little daughter, and he brought her with him tonight. Please welcome Jordy, our cowboy poet, back.
All right.
I forgot.
Thank you. I like this mic. It makes me feel like I'm in the 1950s. So I have two new ones. First, I'm going to read the first one because I'm not 100% sure I'm going to get through the second one all the way. So I wrote this one today, actually on my way here. And it's to my wife and my daughter. When I was young, I used to love to chuck the knucks. It brought me joy to know I was tougher, stronger, meaner than someone else. And I grew older. Life caught up. Life beat me down, wrecked me. And I wasn't big, bad, and tough anymore. And I grew older. I met your mom. She lifted me up, helped me onto my feet, and I didn't have to be stronger, tougher, meaner than anyone else. And I grew older. And you came along, and you brought me joy, and I became softer, gentler, lovinger than ever before. And that's who I am now. August of last year, my grandmother passed away, and her and I were very, very close. And I wrote a poem for her memorial service, and it's called You Taught Me Life. You taught me about music, to hear the notes, the words. You taught me that life is music, a series of notes and chords. The thump of a foot, clinking ice in a glass as I made you another drink. The words are the happy moments, the saddest moments, but it's all beautiful music. You taught me how to dance in the living room, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, moving across the carpet. I learned that you always, always have to move to the music of life. There's no sitting this one out. Grab a partner and dance the rhythm of every day. Most of all, Grandma, you taught me to love. That's what I learned the most, to love. Thank you.
This one has a bit of a backstory to it. So I grew up in Calgary, and my neighborhood for the last 10 years has been Earlton, which, if you don't know, is sort of right where the Stampede grounds are. And in Earlton, there is a tiny little creature that lives there that probably shouldn't be there, and it's a bunch of domestic rabbits. And the story goes that long time ago somebody owned some rabbits, and one day just decided to let them go, and they bred like rabbits will and covered the whole neighborhood. And so for the 10 years that I've been living there, they're the cutest thing around, and I just absolutely love those rabbits. But this is where it gets very sad, and the sort of reason for my poem. So back in September of this year, something very unfortunate happened. the rabbits got infected with something called rabbit hemorrhagic disease, or RHD. And it's a disease that causes internal bleeding and organ damage, and it's got a fatality rate that's higher than 70%, and killed upwards of 90% of the rabbit population. And I guess this poem is sort of my attempt to reconcile myself with the fact that they're mostly gone now, and sort of a memorial for them, for the bunnies. So my poem's called The Rabbits of Earlton. Chomp, chomp, munch, munch. The grass on my lawn never grows. There are always 3 little bunnies lounging away on the green. The cutest lawn mowers in the world, and they work for free. These little creatures are everywhere, along the river and up into the cemetery, where they frolic and laze about. Every year, a dozen tiny babies are born under the porch next door, and in time, the 3 bunnies eating away at the growing grass are of different colors: black, brown, beige, or cookie-colored. For 10 years, these bunnies have been planting smiles on my face. They have watched me grow taller, overseen every daily walk, been there on every big day and every forgotten day. They were the true rulers of the city center, the glorious rabbits of Earlton. Of course, I've seen them die before, chased away by a coyote, or grabbed by a bobcat, or decapitated by a hawk, or swooped down on by an owl, or smushed by a speeding car when a tiny bunny goes chasing after the crab apples falling from the trees. They're such little idiots. But that's the thing. They're so stupid, but no matter how many predators or natural disasters or neighbors come away to take them, the rabbits still survive. And sure, they may have been invasive or unnatural, but that was the best part. They were hilarious and weird, and that's exactly why I loved them. But it still happened. It happened when I was no longer there. It happened when I couldn't have been watching, even if I wanted to. It still happened. They say it burst through the population and then burnt out in an instant. It killed bunny after bunny after bunny, and I'm not even there to see it happen. The watch on my wrist is dead, yet time won't stop moving, and no amount of thinking or wishing will turn back the death clock. Nothing I can do can protect the bunnies from their desecrating demise. And every time I think of those cute bunnies lounging about in the cemetery, they're no longer there. Not even a gravestone marks their quick and sudden death. The vanishing of something that should never have been there in the first place. It was all just a farce. These little invasive bunnies abandoned by their owner and released to the world. Domestic bunnies, cute little urban dwellers. They may have been a farce, but they were my favorite farce in the world, thriving in that environment where they never belonged. Extraordinary in their presence, mundane in their cuteness. All they ever wanted to do was sit there and chew the grass. When I gaze at the night sky, I can see the rabbits hopping on the moon. Up there, it is so still and quiet. It's a peace well deserved by those bunnies. It is every bunny's dream to visit the moon for a relaxing vacation. When I return home in the summer, I fear what I may discover, but I hold the belief firm in my heart that some of those bunnies have lived to see another day. Just a few bunnies would be enough. After all, those cute little bunnies sure know how to multiply. They'll do fine enough. Perhaps they'll settle on my lawn again, returning from their vacation to the moon to chomp away at the grass. Munch, munch, chomp, chomp.
to be back. I missed you guys. Okay, I've got a couple old poems for you. This one's called Serpent Divine. Snake of life, it gets you, always a rattle before it strikes. In vitro vitality flows through immortality, wisdom intrinsic. Are you starting to get it? Gaian, getting high in. Something not in short supply. It's the serpent's vine, so divine and healing. Initiating awakenings and transmutations, sharpening intuition, brings feeling to fruition. It is fire medicine, vulcanized, dimethyltryptamine. Seeking peace, finding solace, breathing oneness. Snake of life, it gets you. Always this rattle before it strikes. Thanks. This one's called Din. Seeking that good kind of din, where I can sit and think again while sipping my dragonfly gin, letting that distilled infusion be my medicine and something that is not necessarily harmful to the spirit within. Seeking that good kind of din where I can sit and think, a remembering why kind of place. So I rode my old bike down to my favorite river fork to offer up gifts to the old man in St. Mary. I was grooving with that sweet and heady inshallah vibe, just grooving with those sweet and hearty inshallah vibes, making me feel the opposite of heavy. When a higher self popped up to remind, treasures buried become weathered and harried. So I sat down, slipped my shoes and socks off, breathed in deep and got ready. Seeking that good kind of din, where the consciousness be growing again. The kind, you know, where it's kind of like a begin again. Thank you.
You know, when they used to have, I can't remember the name of the show now, but it was the one with, you know, where everybody knows your name, Cheers. That's it. It feels like, it just seems so crazy, like, you know, having a place like that. But it's almost like I've got that here now, too, and it's really a lot of fun. So thank you for the welcome. If you've been coming for a while, you know that I have several poems about bees and honey. I see the bees as extremely symbolic about taking ordinary things in life, like pollen, and being able to make the gold of food of the gods, ambrosia from it. So this came to me the other night. It's called The Beekeeper Said. When she climbed up the outside of her building as easily as Spider-Man, I knew she was no ordinary woman. She reached her apartment and waved a blessing as she slipped in the window. I'd been sitting in front of the public building, watching people go in and out. I was getting my head around the fact that I'd ended up here somehow in this new city for a few months or so. But things weren't looking promising. I had none of my usual stuff with me. I didn't have my books, my art supplies. I didn't even have any shoes, my runners still packed in the lost luggage. Two women sat on the ground with me, fixing up some old shoes I'd been given. They were streetwise and very capable, and soon I had adequate walking shoes, with kitten heels, no less. I wondered who they were. Were they homeless? They were certainly poor. I ended up talking with one of them for a long time. She said she was a beekeeper, harvesting honey from the hives she kept in her room. Wow, imagine keeping bees in your apartment. No, just a good storyteller was she. But just before she left, she gave me a small bottle with 2 bees in it. She said I could make honey too. Don't worry, honey, there'll be more than enough. And then she stood up and climbed up the wall of her apartment building. Who is she? Will I ever see her again? I didn't get her name, and I don't know the first thing of how to take care of bees. Well, later I found a place to stay in. It was too small, painted a garish, dirty green turquoise, open to the neighboring apartment. My heart sank. But in the corner was a small table I could use as my desk. Maybe it'd be all right. Maybe. Next morning, I checked on the bees. I'd left their bottle in the bathroom. I hoped they hadn't died on me. And wonder of wonders, there weren't 2 bees, but a cloud of bees buzzing in and out of a crack in the window, filling the bottle. I knew they were beginning to make their honey, blessing me with what I needed, with more than enough, golden ambrosia, food of the gods. Treasure indeed. It will be all right. There will be more than enough, just like the beekeeper said. I'm really happy to be bringing 2 new poems to you tonight because it seemed like the muse not only went south, but she didn't even come back over the summer. So I haven't written anything for months now, so here's another one. Don't you just hate it? Don't you just hate it when the advice they gave you turns out to be true? I intend to outsmart them all. Who needs vegetables? Isn't that what vitamins are for? Go to bed? But I've always been a night owl. Besides, I've got stuff to do. What stuff? Well, important stuff, that's what. Go eat my dust. I've got places to go, people to see, a world to change, and the energy of an Amazon. Until I didn't have the energy of an Amazon anymore. If willpower alone could do it, I'd still be going, doing, moving, shaking. But your body said, enough. And I go, and I do, and I move, and I shake, but much more slowly now. Still a night owl? I now get enough sleep, but you still won't see me before noon. Though still a rebel with a cause, I even eat some vegetables now, especially if they're potatoes and fried. Turns out the advice was true. It turns out I'm just human, like everybody else. I don't have to like it, but it turns out that I do. I may be slow and steady, but this jackrabbit turned turtle, guess where she's going to go? Actually, I've already gotten where I'm going because there's no place to go. We're already here in our dear bodies, on our dear earth. I'm now here. I am here. Nowhere else to be. Psst. There's no race. There's no advice either. There's only love.
The sirens wail. Elsewhere, the war goes on. One day, closer to death, I turn my sight to the little sticks and leaves, bits of cones, a broken shell, propeller seeds, roots, and tiny bones, all of similar hues and tones, woven into a fallen nest of a bird long flown. Insignificant minutiae of my becoming alone. Now the dandelions have gone to seed. Nothing remains to stir my need. These little things are all that's left. When I take my leave, I shall be complete. What's that one? This one may be a little social commentary, self-explanatory, I think. Just a diversion. London Bridge is falling down, and the leaves are changing color. I can't think of a reason, though I'm a man for all seasons, to sustain this royalty thing much longer. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall on his way to the dollar store, but the people haven't yet had enough deception and are still crying out for more. Consider this. Only about a century ago, the Tsar in Russia, the Kaiser in Germany, and the King of England were all brothers. I kid you not, that's true. Now the new king is in his counting house, counting up his money, but will he put the empire back together again without his lovely mummy? She knew 14 presidents, 9 popes, and visited 117 countries. Had a lot of style, but I can't help to wonder if she collected air miles for the peons. And now, you know, I've never been to Spain, though I kind of like to be there. What's that one?
I have 2 poems for you tonight. One is about Christmas, the Christmas lights. And I thought I wrote it for you, Ryan, for one of your Christmas shows, but I realized it was for David. Yours was Cassie and the Lights, right? Okay. The Christmas lights. How shiny, how twinkling, how delightful, how cheerful. Let the lights bring you hope and peace this Christmas. You know, one little light doesn't seem to be very bright, but put a string of them together and they light up and shine. Just like one light is connected to another, and another, and another, so are we people connected to each other. We are connected with our loved ones, even if we don't see them this Christmas. We are connected by the invisible thread of love, friendship, and our humanity. When you look at the Christmas lights this year, don't be sad and don't feel lonely. Remember, just like the lights, we are connected by the thread of love. My next poem is an old one. I hope I didn't read it here, and if I did, I hope I don't bore you to death with it. Rising from the ashes. We are rising from the ashes of our scattered dreams, slowly, like grass rises after a fire. We gather our strength little by little and gain new perspective every day. We are rising from the ashes of our hurts from long ago. Some wounds heal quickly, others take years to heal, and there are some that stay with us for life. We are rising from the ashes of our past, emerging like a bird, flying higher and higher on the wings of today. We soar on the visions of a strong tomorrow. We are rising from the ashes of something every single day.
Hello, friends. We got 6 new poems. Hopefully I get through all of them. We're gonna start with Birthday Call. It's about one of my exes that sadly passed away from suicide. Every year on your birthday, I sit by my phone hoping you'll call. Putting our history aside just for one day, I pray each year you'll have enough forgiveness to call me and tell me you love me again. You miss us. But it never seems to happen, but I just want you to know I'll always be grateful for our time together. I'll be grateful for you. The next one's called Late Night Thoughts. I wrote this right next to my sleeping boyfriend. Good night, I love you, I say, as my mind starts to race, thinking of our future. He secretly hates you. I try not to believe it. He's just using you, just like everybody else. He lays beside me sleeping. I try not to cry. What if my mind is right, like it's been every other time? The next one's called Leave. I may not be the best lover. I get into my head a lot, thinking you'll leave when things go quiet. Behind the I love yous are I never loved you. I may have these thoughts, but I'll still love you to the fullest. Show you the love I wish I got. Treat you like there's nobody else in this world. If one day you decide, though, that you'd like to leave, I'll understand, because I'd leave me too. The next one's called Thinking of Us. Hopefully I'll get through all of these. Do you ever think of us? The memories we made in summer when we were kids. Laughter, just so madly in love. I do. You come to mind when I hear Whitney Houston in Quiet Rooms. The smell of cinnamon brings me back to your mom's car. The only place I felt heard. When I see puppies, I think of your smile, how you lit up. Now in your memory, I light up too. I miss you.
Hello. Is this thing high enough? Okay. Needs a little bit of explanation for this first couple of ones. There's a magazine down the States called 3 Elements, and their shtick is before every issue they post 3 relatively unrelated word act as prompts. And for some reason, every so often, I'll bring them up on the internet and look at their prompts, and I never get around to actually sending them any poetry. But I realized, thinking about tonight, that I actually had a couple of poems I'd finished from these guys, so you're going to get those tonight. First one's called Scapegoat on Ararat. He'd been penned up on the afterdeck when the unicorns died in the shipwreck. The old man's youngest son, the redhead at the wheel, had run them hard aground upon the rock. Laying the ark upon its side, there'd been a sudden shock, then the boat swung upon the tide, and all the world came crashing down. As a dying phoenix came alight, he'd slipped away into the night, better by far to fall and drown than burn bound upon the altar. I could see it in the old man's eyes. A desire he never could disguise as he caressed the knife and halter. The redhead son had seen it too. Times his father beat and called him wicked. In those times he was trapped. He knew, like a scapegoat in the thicket. The cage had splintered and the door swung wide. He followed the son over the side. The choice was clear and the choice was stark. Burn in the light or run in the dark. I'm sorry it's not that optimistic a poem. And this is another, trust me, there's a couple later that they're not quite as cynical. Faded cyanotype on curling paper, the blueprint rolling back into itself, a mock telescope sweeping the horizon for feeding gulls, shoals of herring. Old fishermen say the water boiled. Boiled, I tell you, matey, there's just that many fish the Lord himself had to mind the baked goods and that the anchovies mind themselves. Sardine sandwiches, that was the order of the day. Give a man a fish, and you'll feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you'll wipe out the whole damn Red Sea. The delusion that we give a flying beyond the next sandwich and maybe a saucy little Merlot after the boat trip is down to magic or religion. Ask any shipwright. The blueprints are always wrong. It's the empiric skepticism of the man who knows who winds up carrying the can. Someone has to answer for the delusions of the fisherman, for something approximating eternity. As the ocean rolls and the wind bellies out the sails and the crews sail singing out of port, and the shipworms hold a communion as old as the uneasy interface between the land and sea.
Hi, everybody. I'm new. I moved here from Prince George, BC a few years ago. I was very involved with street kids and working with them. And I was working, and I was thinking of one particular young girl. She was 14. And the newspapers called her a child prostitute. It used to anger the hell out of me because, as far as I'm concerned, she was a child who was being abused by adults. So I did a bunch of work with a group called CASey, which is an acronym for Community Against the Sexual Exploitation of Youth. And so with her in mind, I wrote this poem because I used to see her standing on the street. It's called Shadows. Well, it's late at night. I'm trying not to slip through the cracks. And if I can keep it together, I just might make it back to you. I see myself reflected in a pane glass truth, much too young to be here and too scared to look in the window. And I can see you staring as you drive by, making value judgments about one so young and why I'm not at home, being tucked in. I'm somebody's daughter, and I don't want to be here. Fodder for your column of words. There are times when I'm standing here that I'm chilled to the bone, so damn screwed up and twisted, aimless and misled by those who say they care, that I scream to be saved and brought home. You don't know where I come from, and I'm not the only one. There are so many of us. A terrible indictment for your daughters and sons. What I really need from you is a safe place to tell my story and to be believed. A place where my voice won't get lost. I feel so disconnected from you, the fortunate ones. What I need is a strong supporting role in a real-life tragedy that takes one so low and so young and robs us of our innocence. Just how did I get here? What caused this misalignment of life? There are those who think if you're good, it comes back to you, and the bad get what they deserve. But you tell me what I'm to do when pangs of hunger pierce through, not only for food, but for love. So I hit the streets, taken in by kindly eyes, promises, and pretty lies. Abuse exchanged for more. So when you see me standing in your safe neighborhood, can you feel the tug of love and the faith needed to do some good? My spirit feels compressed, and I'm forced to be older than I want to be, when all I really need is a safe place to tell my story. A place where I mean more to someone than a target for scorn or a means to cash. What I need is unconditional love that won't cost me anything. Please, I just want to come in from the night and out from the shadows. I was really humbled by what I'm hearing here tonight. This is my first time in 50 years that I've read any of my stuff. So, someday, I just turned 70, and someday I'm going to give this to my 3 grown children, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that, especially when 2 of them don't like spoken word or poetry, so that's really... My father passed away a few years ago. He worked in a pulp mill in Prince George. And one day, as I was there, I was sitting in a meeting and I heard people talking and using unbelievable words that I knew nothing about. But I thought they sounded great. So I wrote this poem. It's called Making Paper. 3 pulp mills in Prince George, and when you fly into Prince George, There's a point at when the airplane lands, everybody looks at each other and says, "Wasn't me," because the smell in Prince George is not very pleasant. This is called Making Paper, dedicated to my dad, Simon. Diffusional interception. Heliophobic or heliophobic, what is it? Is it integrity testable? Are the chip witches involved? Have the bisulfates been added to defibber the chips? Has there been reverse osmosis? Onward, boys, to the Freudian. Beta ratios give way to gravimetric channeling and capillary flow. Micronic sizes fill the holes in your void. Chemical expressions in deep well water. Kinetical macrolite, chilled, cast, and clean. Raking, scraping, salt cake dissolvers, sodium sesquisulfate, and seal pot separators, and flocculation. Trim squirts, slitters, and water jet pissers, headbox showers, no sheet breaks, please. Esters, glycols, calendar stacks, rolls, and pistons, both squeezed and pressed. Valiment, Mezzo, Escher, Weiss, Hunt, Mosscrop, Koosters, Beloit, and Voith. Winders, rewinders, and sealwater binders, reaction kinetics, rules of thumb, all for the bale and the pulp paper run. May I do one more?
I went way back to my first book of poetry that I wrote when I was in my teens, because I wasn't sure what to read. So I have those books, and they're pretty precious to me. The first one is, a poem, one of my earliest poems from my first book. And it's called Never a Day. It's about sleazy men. The ones I met at that time of my life. All right, it goes like this. Never a day. O cursed luck and spite I seek, a golden key my lock shall keep. For all others shall throw them back. For who needs pigs only wanting the sack? Oh, wanting only the sack. One more time. Sorry. Never a day. O cursed luck and spite I seek, a golden key my lock shall keep. For all others shall throw them back, for who needs pigs wanting only the sack? Creeps and scoundrels, scurry away, I want you not, and never a day. My time is precious and you are not, for cover do strive, my temper is hot. Wretched cries not be heard, you weaken girls' hearts, by you they were lured. Vengeance has come to take its course, it all comes back, yet still no remorse. Call again, reel me in, or think again, a task more difficult than before. My heart shut off, still you care not, concerned only for body, tasteless thoughts I'll never reach. You suck me dry as that a leech, a relative of yours I would expect. Leave me to lick my open sores. With lethal intentions you drove me away. Now come not again and never a day. Poetry has always been my therapy for many, many, many years. Always. This next one I actually wrote last night, and I'm just throwing it in there. This is my first, I've been pretty clean with my language on the stage before now, but this is about how I feel about raisins. Okay, here we go. Raisins, old, sad, dried up fruit, carcasses of their once delicious past, dessert's saddest, most dismal addition. Dull, chewy raisins. Side note, I will not be eating any Christmas baking filled with the devil's candy, Satan's crack, Lucifer's handkerchief, Lilith's smack. A bonfire should be built blazing, incinerating all of those taste bud cringing withered raisins. I hate raisins. Stay tuned for future months where I talk about how I feel about pickles.
So my first poem is a commentary on, I have chronic depression, so it's a commentary on that. It's called Freeze. I cannot move, at least not from my bed. I can see the laundry piling up from weeks of alternating pajamas. The dishes are amassing from breakfasts I haven't eaten. I don't know why they keep bringing food in here. My deadlines are long past. I can hear the voice in my head begging me to clean, work, do something. My head is pounding with the self-deprecation. I can't even sleep. I can't do anything. I am sinking into my own disparity. There is no escape for me. I hope the bed devours my insides, because then maybe I'll be made useful. And then the next two are about love, to give some nice dichotomy to the night. This first one is sleep. I woke up this morning reaching for a person who wasn't there. It's kind of funny. You spend so much of your life sleeping alone, but then share a bed with someone you love for just one night, and you'll find yourself reaching for them every time you're afraid. And one more. This one doesn't have a title. I don't have an excuse.
You don't need one.
I love you in a way that makes the poets of the past angry, because I can't seem to get into text what I wish I could convey. I love you like the stars in the sky, infinitely, and I love you like the smell of coffee in the morning. I love you more than the tragedies of Shakespeare, the rom-coms of the early 2000s. I love you like fresh strawberries on a summer's day, like lemonade and getting A's on tests. I love you in an indescribable way, and that is why I keep trying to use these ridiculous literary devices, because I love you with a power stronger than gravity, stronger than tequila shaken and poured into a cosmic shot glass. I love you like the moon on a perfectly cloudless day, and no matter what you say, I will always love you this way. As a friend, as more, as anything, I love you. Believe it to be true. Thank you.
Okay, so this poem is about the person who threatened the life of my dog, which, as you may guess, I am very much not cool with. And I am calling this is very real, because this is also very recent. Okay, if you think there is nothing I can do, then don't be surprised when it turns out not to be true. If you think this is the end of it, then I'll show you what beginning is. If you think you have won, I'm not done. In any case, I already have two. I never would have adduced that my greatest battle would be helping you, but your capacity to undermine takes all of mine. So what exactly is it that I'm in a aid and abet to? Your propensity for wishful thinking makes me wish I hadn't been thinking, I mean. Whenever I hear what the issue is, it's just painful. Do you even believe yourself? Why does this gaslighting still affect my mental health? You're the one with the wealth, but somehow I'm still paying for it. You play the sympathy card, but how much more often are others your victims? In all of this deception, do you really not see that you're only fooling yourself? I know that this is just your neurotic self and not your true self, but that is not anything that will help. Sorry. If even one of them takes the time to take you down, when you were banking on every one of them thinking it just isn't worth it. Your rationality doesn't speak to me, so you never know what others might decide is worth their time, that is. But there's a dark cloud on the horizon, and a storm is starting to brew. The trees are swaying, and the wind is starting to blow. If this is the herald of the end of your days, why would I be the one to know? Oh, try me. If you really want, I'll show you exactly what I can do. For I am livid too. What is a game for you is my freaking life. Thank you.
Many thanks to Steve and the staff at the Owl for their awesome venue and excellent service. Thanks to Ryan from Shaw Spotlight for recording, editing our event, for broadcasting it, and posting it on YouTube. Woo! Thank you, Carrie, for sponsoring our event again for the gazillion time. Thank you all poets for participating and our audiences here at the Owl. Thank you, Shaw Spotlight audiences, for watching our program on TV and on YouTube. See you all on Wednesday, December 28th. After that, we have a January 25th, a February 22nd, a March 22nd, and the rest to be announced. Anyone who has read their poems here is welcome to join our insider group, Owl Poets, on Facebook. And our open mics are every fourth Wednesday of the month. Jim, I hope you didn't leave. Dang it, he left. I was just gonna tell him how he can put his poems in a book, but I guess I'm telling him that next time. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful night.